Let's continue working with typography with InDesign Classroom in a Book, Lesson 7. We're going to do quite a bit of work to create an article today. One of the first things we want to do, of course, is go to Canvas, go to our assignments, Lesson 7, and download our zip file to either our desktop or our flash drive. I've already put it on my desktop. From there, we want to make sure we right-click, extract all, and open up the file. Since I've already opened it, let's go ahead and take a peek. In this one today, you get two files, one marked end and one marked start. Let's go ahead and hit the start one. One of the first things we're going to do is go to View, Display Performance, and change it to High Quality. Then we're going to go ahead and do File, Save As, and today we're going to call it 07 Type. Let's say that one more time. Alright, we are going to need the paragraph panel quite a bit today, so if it's not open, go to Window, type in Tables, and head down to Paragraph. You're going to want to make sure you have that one docked or over to the side. We're going to use it quite a bit today. We also want to make sure we're looking at our hidden characters. So go up here to the top and go to your hidden characters, or you can go to Type, Show Hidden Characters as well. So you want to see those. One of the first things that we can do is create what's called a baseline grid in order to align our text evenly. And that's what's called leading, is putting equal space between all of those lines. So one of the first things we want to do is see how much room do we have to begin with. So let's go ahead and go to Layout, Margins and Columns. And we want to find out what this top number is. So we know it's 6p. So we're going to say OK, or cancel. Then we can look at the leading value. We can look at the leading value right here, which is 14.4 right now. How much space is between the different lines? We're going to go to Edit, Preferences, and this time we're going to work on grids. We want to create a grid that is light blue, that starts at our top margin, which is 6p. We want it to be relative to the top of the page, not the top margin. We want to have an increment every 14 points, and we want the view threshold to be 100%. And we're going to say OK. But we still can't see anything, so we've got to do a couple steps first. We need to go to View. We need to go to Extras. No, we don't. We want View, Grids and Guides, sorry. And go down to Show Baseline Grid. But we still don't see anything. So let's go to View, and we want Actual Size. And then you're going to see it starts to look kind of like a piece of paper from when you were in elementary school. So we're going to go ahead and align all of the paragraphs to this baseline grid. So we want all the lines to sit on the blue lines. Because you see right now they're kind of a little inconsistent, and we want it to be on those blue lines exactly. So let's go ahead and place an insertion point here at Sure. And let's go Edit, Select All, or Control A, and select it all. So then we're going to go over here to our Type and Paragraph, which is our panel right here, if it's not open. We want to go ahead and adjust it to the baseline grid, which is these two columns side by side right here. And notice how every single one of those lines now is sitting on the baseline grid, which creates a nice, neat look from page to page. And we're going to go ahead and click outside onto our pasteboard and push Save, Control S. So now let's do a few more things. We want to go ahead and make sure our subheads fit a little bit better. So let's go ahead and go View, Fit Spread in Window, so we can see the whole thing a little bit better. And notice my baseline grid lines disappeared, so I don't have to see them. Let's go ahead and grab our Type tool and click over here in the words called The Restaurant. We want to go ahead and add some space before this paragraph. So if we look over here in our paragraph panel, we have quite a few options. If we go to the third one down, it says space before. And we want it to be 0p6 and then enter. So notice it's automatically going to put a little bit of space in between that one right there. Let's go ahead and look at our paragraph styles. You'll notice now our subhead has a plus on it, which means it has been changed. So it's saying, do you want to pay attention and have us fix all the other elements that are called subhead in this one? So we want to go ahead and choose redefine style. So we're going to click our hamburger menu and do redefine style. And notice that the goals pop down too, because it is also called a subhead. And now we don't have the plus sign, which says you've done something to it. Alright, we don't need the baseline grid anymore, so let's go to View, Grids and Guides, and hide baseline grid. So now we don't have to worry about it being on anymore. Alright, click out to my pasteboard and Control S to save. So now we can do a few things like add some different fonts from the type kit. The type kit is the set of typography that comes with Adobe InDesign and Photoshop. You can download about 100 different choices at a time. So let's go to type, and you will need to add type from fonts from Typekit, which is the first one. You will need to have an internet connection to make this work, because we're actually going to a website. And we want to find a type called Calson. So if I just put Calson in, I don't actually get anything, because it's called Adobe Calson. So let's do Adobe. You'll see I start to get a whole bunch of stuff popping up, and Adobe Calson's right there. So I'm going to go ahead and select it, and you should have one that says sync all or add to kit. We want to go ahead and sync all, which means add it to my computer. I've already done this once, so I've got it on a couple times. Alright, so now we can go ahead and go back to our InDesign document, because we've added 6 more fonts. So let's go ahead and let's start working with this quote right here. Maybe the next celebrity to hit town will whip up. We want to make that a different font. We want to make it a little bit different. So let's go ahead and grab our character panel, which is this one right here, or Windows. That's character styles. We want character, which has got the line by it. If you don't have it, Window, type in tables, and character. I'll pop that open for you. We want to go ahead and change it from Myriad Pro to our new one we just installed, which if we notice, it's just barely installed, so it's barely at the top. You can also use, you can search for things, you can filter all the classes, you can do a lot of different things as far as finding. You can start typing in the box, and it will start giving you different options as to find fonts a lot faster. And we want it to be bold italic, so instead of regular, we want bold italic. We're going to go ahead and make it 14 points. And we want the leading, the space between, to be 30. So we want it to have quite a bit of space in between the lines. And I'm going to go ahead and push enter. So now you see my quote actually fills the box. And it's starting to look a little bit better. We're still going to play with it a little bit more. Alright, so we're going to play with some things called glyphs. Glyphs are alternate letters within a typeface that you don't necessarily always see. So we're going to go ahead and change this M. I'm going to go ahead and highlight the M. I'm going to type, and I'm going to go down to glyphs. And you'll notice that it's given me a few different options. I've got a fancy M, I've got this M with a flourish, or I've got kind of a funky little bullet thing. I want to go ahead and use this fancy M. So I'm going to go ahead and double click it, and now I'm using that glyph within my pull quote, which makes it kind of nice, and you don't have to change fonts or do anything like that. It's part of what's built in. Alright, so let's go ahead and go down to F. And since we still have glyphs open, notice that it just change letters for us. So I'm going to go ahead and make the F fancy as well. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and add a special character over here to the end of the article. So I can hit and hold Z and zoom in. Oh, I'm still on my type tool, so I just put in a whole bunch of Z's. I'm going to go to my selection tool, hold my Z, and now I can zoom in. I want to put a special marker right here at the end of the article to mark that this is the end of this story. So we're going to go ahead and grab our type tool, go in here right after for you, after the period, and we're going to go ahead and choose a glyph, and we want to choose, notice how we look within, you've got alternates for selection, you've got a lot of different choices. So we want to make sure we are in our font, which is the Adobe Castellan. Of course, I'm not Syrio. Adobe Castellan. And I need to go ahead and pull down ornaments. So we're going to go ahead and look down our list, and we have one called ornaments. So we have all these different choices of ending characters to put in for our ending character. I'm going to go ahead and do the little finger this time. So I'm going to double click and put the little finger in. And it's putting it right at the very end of that document. So I don't want it right there. I want to have it at the edge of the column. So I'm going to go ahead and backspace 1. I'm going to go up to Window. I'm going to go up here to my Type. Insert Special Character. I want Other. And I want a right tab indent, which will automatically push that element over to the side. Now what's great about that is if I decide to make this column different sizes, it will automatically resize that for me and push it to the right hand edge, no matter where the right hand edge ends up. Alright, so there's a few more glyphs that we want to pay attention to. These are ones you're going to want to pay attention to when it comes to doing your recipe articles. So in order to look more professional, we want to go ahead and make these half cups and such look like a glyph instead of a 1-2. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight my half a lemon right here. I'm going to be in my Adobe Castellan. So it's the same type and stuff. And then show, I want numbers this time. And if I do that, it doesn't quite work, because if I see in here, this is Myriad Pro. So I don't want to replace it with Castellan. I want Myriad Pro. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my font matches. So Myriad Pro. I'm in numbers, and I want to go ahead and put half in. So I'm going to double click half. And anywhere that I have got a partial cup, I'm going to go ahead, highlight that, and replace it with the proper glyph. Now, depending on your font, not all fonts have glyphs included, so it can hamper what you're going to create as far as your recipe articles go. So let's go ahead and make sure we have replaced all of these different fractions here. I think I've got almost all of them. Just choose the right one and double click. Alright, I think we've got all of those put in now. So don't forget that's under glyphs. Alright, let's go ahead and go to View, Grids and Guides, and let's do Show Guides. I had mine on, so let's go View, Show Guides, and that'll put our guides in so we can see a little bit more. We're going to fine tune these columns just a little bit more. So one of the first things we want to do is to create what's called a straddle head, which will go across multiple columns. Because right now our headline is getting lost a little bit. So let's go ahead and go to our type tool and click in our Try It at Home. Let's go to our paragraph controls, and we want to go ahead and do we want to go up here to the top in the control panel and hit that paragraph controls. So you've got font, you've got paragraph. So not the side one, you want the top one. And we want to do we want to control the span. The span is right over here. It says span columns. And we want to go ahead and tell it to span all the columns. So it goes across all 3. So that was relatively easy. We didn't have to draw any more boxes. We didn't have to create anything special. Alright, so now let's go ahead and play with it a little bit more. Let's go ahead and redefine our style, our paragraph style right here. So you see it's got the plus sign. So we want to go ahead and click on our menu and redefine the style. So that way it knows that anytime we use this style, we want it to span all 3 of those columns. We're not quite there yet though. It still looks a little bit funky. Now that we've added the headlines, we've got what's called unbalanced columns. So we can play with that a little bit more. We could do something like try and go in and play with the size of the box and see if we could get it to work right. But we like the way it is right now. So let's play with it a little bit differently. Let's go ahead and grab the text box that's holding all this information. Then we want to go to Object, and we want to go to Text Frame Options. We want to go to Columns, and we want to hit this one called Balance Columns right here. And notice what it does is makes it a little bit more even visually. It keeps them in better flow. Alright, so we're going to say OK to that one. So what else can we do? We can change the alignment of things. Let's go ahead and play with this author bio right up here. Let's go ahead and on the right page scroll to this guy right here, and with our type tool we're going to click into this Julie Pepin is a writer, and notice how it did the baseline grid, which makes these small letters look really far apart, and we don't want to do that. Let's go ahead and go to our paragraph, and instead of having balanced columns, we want our line to baseline grid, we want to tell it not to. So now it brings those in a little bit closer, and it's a little bit nicer because the letters are so much smaller. We can also decide we don't want it on the left-hand margin, we want to move it to the right. So since I'm still in paragraph, I'm going to go up here and align right instead. Alright, so I'm going to do Control S and save it. Next thing we're going to play with is this pull quote right here. We can do something called hang the punctuation outside so that all of our letters line up. Instead of the quote being above the C, we want the M to be above the C, which is called an optical margin alignment. So let's go ahead and go to View, Extras, and we want to show those frame edges again so we can see this frame. We want to grab our selection tool and click on the text frame that holds that pull quote. So we've got the pull bars. Let's go to Type. Let's go to the Story panel. And you'll see we get a little mark right here. This says Optical Margin Alignment. So it's moved that outside the green box. And we want to go ahead and make it 14 points. So let's see how it adjusts how much farther out that should go. So we still wanted to touch the box a little bit, so we're going to go ahead and tell it 14 points. Alright, we don't need that anymore, so we're going to go ahead and turn that off. And we can do File Save. And we can click out here on the Pasteboard to deselect. So now what we want to do is create a drop cap. We're going to close my glyphs as well. I'm going to go back, look at my pages, and I can double click and get some and click real quick back to my first page. So I want to go ahead and make this S a drop cap. So we're going to go ahead, grab the Type tool, Text tool, and highlight just the S. We're going to go into Paragraph. Actually, we don't have to highlight, we can just put it in that word. We're going to go back to paragraph, and if we go to the fourth one down, that's drop cap and how many lines. So we want to go ahead and drop the cap 3 lines. And we want to leave this one set at 1. Alright, so what else can we do to it? Let's go to type. Let's go to character. And let's play with it a little bit more. We're going to go ahead and apply some color and some stroke to it. So let's go ahead first, grab my character style. And you'll see when I've got one for drop cap. Let's go ahead and apply that. I need to have it highlighted so it knows what it's doing. And I'm going to do drop cap. So now if I click out, you can see it turned it kind of this funky greenish color. We want to make it stand out even a little bit more. So we're going to add a stroke to it. So what do we do next? We're going to go ahead and go up here to the top. Switch it back to font. Our stroke is right here underneath the fill, and under the colorful theme we want to go ahead and grab that red color, and we want the tint, we want the red color, and we want the tint to be 100%, which means we want it to be as bright as it gets, and enter. So remember we talked about tints the other day. You can create a lot of different colors by changing how opaque something is. Alright, so now we've got this drop cap. It's got a little bit more pizzazz to it. Let's go ahead and Control S and save what we've got so far. Now we can adjust what's called the drop cap alignment. You see that the I in International is right up against the edge, but the S isn't necessarily. We want to bring it over just a tiny bit. So how do we do that? Let's go ahead and using the type tool, let's go into that paragraph where we've got sure. And let's go to type and paragraph, or you can go to your panel if you've got it open on the side. Let's go ahead and choose drop caps from the menu. So go to your hamburger menu and you want drop caps and nested styles. You're going to get another pop-up here. And we want to align the left edge. So see how it kind of popped it over now? And we've got it visually sitting now over the eye. So it's a lot cleaner. So we're going to say OK. Go ahead and click out on my pasteboard to deselect. And let's do Control S to save it. Next thing we're going to do is adjust the kerning and the tracking. Kerning is the amount of space in between different types of letters. Tracking increases or decreases across a range of letters. So kerning is one, tracking is multiple. So we're going to make if you go have a little bit wider tracking. We're going to grab our text tool and we're going to click in the word if you go. Let's go ahead and go to the character panel. So if you don't have that open, we want to go ahead and choose 50 from the tracking menu. So right now it's 0, and I want to go ahead and take it to 50. I'm going to go ahead and highlight the word so you can see it a little bit more. Now what happens if I do something like 100? Look how much bigger it gets. So it's stretching that entire word. Let's go ahead and make sure the tracking is at 50. So you've highlighted the word, you do it to 50. We're going to go ahead and do our pasteboard to deselect our text and we can see what we've got going on. Alright, so a few things we can do is look at how Adobe can do some of the process for us as far as making things look nicer. There's a long explanation about this in the book. I do want you to read it. I'm going to hit save and let's look at a few things. We're going to go ahead and go to our paragraph composer. So I want to go view, fit spread in window so you can see a little bit more of what's going on. This one was done with the paragraph composer turned on. So let's see what happens if we turn it off. Let's go to the type tool. Let's go into our type and select Control A to select all. Then in paragraph, we want to go to our panel, and you see we've got these three choices at the top. Let's go ahead and look at single line composer and see how it changes how the lines are laid out. A little bit more ragged. So if we let paragraph composer take over, it will make it a little bit cleaner to look at. So it's something to think about doing. All right, a question I get all the time from students is, how do I turn off the hyphenation? You want to go into paragraph and either click or unclick that hyphenate button. Generally, I'm a not hyphenate person, but it really depends on the publication and what their style guides say. All right, so one of the other things we can do is, you see how, if I click out to the side, on the right here we have kind of some ragged edges, which are a little distracting, not quite as clean, so we can make those a little bit better. Grab our type tool, click in, and we want to go ahead and choose the balanced ragged lines option. So we're going to go ahead and select all of our stuff, so Control A, because we want it to apply to everything. We're going to go to our hamburger menu, and we're going to go to Balance Ragged Lines, and see how it changes your optical look just a little bit. So I'll do that again. Hamburger menu, turn it off, goes to the full column, or turn it on. So you get something a little bit cleaner. It's up to you as to whether or not what you like best. All right, I'm going to hit my column over here, my pasteboard, Control S, and save. One of the next things we want to do is set some tabs to make this area right here look better. I'm going to do Control plus, scroll in, see a little bit better what I'm doing. So you can see that this is kind of messy, not very well taken care of, so I want to use some tabs. Tabs work a little bit differently in InDesign than they do in like a Microsoft Word. So we want to make sure we have type, we want to make sure your hidden characters are still on, and we want to make sure you're in normal mode. Otherwise you won't be able to see what you're doing. Alright, we want to go ahead and select everything in this box. So Control A. We're going to go to type, and we're going to go to tabs. And notice it pops up a ruler right above where we want to mess with the tabs, which is pretty awesome. So we want to go ahead and tell it we want a left justified tab, which is the first one, and we want the tab stops to be 5P5. And then we're going to push enter. And notice how it automatically pushed everything in over 5 spots. So now we've got pretty clean, except we still have this hanging indent here a little bit. So let's do a few other things. Let's go ahead and add what's called a dot leader, which is where you have the little dots in between the first word and basically taking up that tab space. So let's go ahead and type in the leader, type period and a space and enter. And now we've got all those dot leaders put in. So you didn't have to go in and put in a whole bunch of periods to try line it up individually. You let the software do the work for you whenever possible. So now we want to create that hanging indent. The hanging indent will help move this web address into this line. So the easiest way to do that is to grab both of the arrows, put them over the tab. It's going to move everything in. We want to move the top line back, so we can grab just the top arrow maybe and move it back. So move this tab right in there. Undo. Alright, you can also do this by working with your paragraph, and we can go, we want it at 5P5 and we want it at minus 5P5. And that will help us clean up that information just a little bit. Now, because I added this extra, it's messing it up. So I'm going to hit delete, undo. I'm going to right click and say delete tab. And I need to move this one over just a tiny bit. There we go. Now it's nice and clean. So now we've got that all beautiful and awesome. We're almost done with the lesson. Let's go ahead and view Fit Spread in Window so we can see the whole thing. We're done playing with tabs, so we can go ahead and close that. And let's click out onto the pasteboard so we have nothing selected. Notice it's nice and clean now, nothing obnoxious. So let's go ahead and see what happened here. I'm going to select all and put it on the baseline grid again. For some reason it's not going to the baseline grid. Alright, let's look at my paragraph style and make sure it's still on body text. Alright, there we go. Somehow I changed my style somewhere along the way. But we're fixed now. I'm going to have to go back through, reapply to the restaurant my subhead, and the goals had a subhead as well. So I'm not quite sure what I did just then. Alright, so we want to go ahead and play with this paragraph for the author profile. Remember before we went ahead and turned off the baseline grid, so go to paragraph and we want it to be do not align. And we want to go ahead and play with it a little bit more. We had it right aligned. So it's not quite perfect, but we can make it better. Let's go ahead and do what's called add a rule above this paragraph. So a rule, remember, is a straight line. What we're going to do is go here to our with our insertion point in the author bio, go to our hamburger menu, and we want paragraph rules. And we're going to get a pop-up. We want the rule to be above. We want to turn the rule on. We want to make sure that we can see it. So turn on that preview. We just want it to be small. We want it to be kind of that orangey brown color, the one that starts with C20. We want the width to be column, and we want the offset to be 0.9. Because right now if you look at it, it's in the middle of our words. So hit enter, and now we have a rule above. I want to go ahead and add a little bit of space in between, so I'm going to add a return. Alright, so what else can we do? We can make this box green. So let's go ahead and make that box green as well. So here under shading, in the paragraph, I'm going to turn the shading on. And right now it's bright red, which I don't want. I want to go ahead and make it green. But it's still a pretty dark green, and I don't want it to be dark green. I want to control the tint. In order to control the tint, I need to go into my paragraph menu. I need to go to paragraph, borders, and shading. In my shading, I want to go ahead and tell it to tint. Let's make it 50%. So we just get a slight view. If you can't see it, turn the preview on and say OK. So now we've done quite a few things to this article. It looks much better than it did before. Last step, of course, is to file. Make sure you have zero errors. File package. Go ahead and package it. Go ahead and save it. First initial, last name, InDesign, classroom in a book, chapter 7, package. Make sure you're in your lesson 7 folder. Make sure you've got everything selected, and go ahead and package it. Make sure you're turning in that packaged report when you're done.